Welcome to Building to Last, the podcast where we dive into the people, processes and products that shape the construction industry. I'm your host, Andy Stedman, and today we're looking at the essential but sometimes overlooked part of the industry, which is the builders merchants. So these are the businesses that keep construction sites moving, supplying everything from bricks and timber and insulation to tools. And no better person to discuss that with today than Joe Tipper, Director of Tipper's Builders Merchants, a company with over 100 years of history supplying the Midlands and beyond. Joe, welcome to the show.
Andy, thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. So we'll get straight into it then and discuss the role of the Builders Merchants and kind of demystify that a bit. So for homeowners, we're looking at homeowners and the construction industry itself, but people who are not familiar, can you explain what the Builders Merchant is and why they're such a crucial part of the construction process?
Yeah, sure. So I suppose our core proposition, the basics of what we do, is to get the right stuff, the right building materials, to the right place, at the right price, at the right time, every time. That's our core fundamentals of our business. So what does that mean? It means holding a lot of building material stock. So we stock as a business about 16,000 products. That ranges from screws, nuts, bolts, timber, bricks, blocks, cement, insulation, bathroom products, plumbing materials, the full spectrum. Anything that's needed to build a house from foundations to finishing touches, we have under our roof. Which means that at any point in the process, a builder, plastering contractor, landscaper, plumber can phone us or pop into one of our branches and get what they need to progress the project.
Good. So how has that evolved over the time? Obviously, 100 years of history.
100 years is a long time.
We'll go there a bit in a second. But so how has the general evolving of the sourcing of materials evolved?
So briefly, our business. Business has been around 100 years. We've got 14 sites around the Midlands, 290 members of staff. If I think back to the business as was, it started out of railway sidings, evolved from coal merchanting to a few building materials. Coal died off and we started to sell more and more building materials instead of coal, particularly heavy building materials. And then I think as construction's developed, we've grown with it. Essentially, it's about enabling the trades. It's trying to make their lives easier and make them more efficient on site. So we're an integral part of our customers' lives, of their businesses. We deal with people for generations. There are people who I trade with now whose grandfathers dealt with my grandfather. So there's something very special in our industry about the longevity that people trade for. And the other thing is that we deal with people day in, day out. There's very few businesses where I think suppliers and customers interact every single day. So what's that about? I think some of that's about the fact that projects are dynamic. People come across things on site they didn't expect. The weather changes. Things happen, which means that the requirements for our customer base are constantly changing. In terms of our business, how we've adapted and changed over time, I think fundamentally it comes down to efficiency. So we've got better, if you go back, you would have been simple vehicles, no cranes. We've now got fabulous crane lorries that can position materials better on site. We can fit more onto vehicles. Health and safety's improved considerably. Racking in our branches, we can keep more density of products on our site, so we've increased our range over time. And then obviously, technology's evolved as well, and it's never stopped. And I feel we're on quite a big curve of change now as well. So whilst construction fundamentally is quite a traditional industry, we've used a lot of products that have been around a long time. Brick behind us here is a classic. I mean, obviously we've been manufacturing brick for an awful long time, building houses out of brick, and we're still doing so today because it's a fabulous product as a material. It looks great. And it lasts for an incredibly long period of time. So there's aspects of the material supply chain that have stayed fairly consistent. And then if we think about sustainability and the way things are moving forwards, those types of traditional products are evolving in the way they're manufactured to make them more energy efficient. And then we're bringing new products in to improve air tightness, to improve quality and the level of insulation in buildings, to improve ventilation, improve in terms of the indoor living environment. So the range of products are evolving considerably as well that we're stocking and selling to customers now.
Yeah, great. So we've talked quite a bit there about how you support trades. We're looking at homeowners as well. So obviously you do support. Now I find some homeowners, if I ask them to go and look at building products in builders merchants, there's that bit of standoffishness of feeling comfortable in that environment. So what would you say about, your ability to support the DIYer, the homeowners themselves, as well as trades?
So I think there's a couple of areas there. There's definitely a quite a consistent trend for what I would call a customer who's not necessarily a user, but is a chooser. I.e., the customer will come into one of our branches. They'll want to come and look at some landscaping. They'll want to come and look at a bathroom or a kitchen and choose the products that they want to have in their house, even though they're not necessarily the person that's going to be installing them. I think for those people, getting comfortable coming into a builder's merchant can feel a little bit off-putting. And some of that can be the simple fact of, is there a car park where they don't have to park in the yard?
Yeah.
Because often customers park in the yard, in amongst forklift trucks and building materials, bricks, blocks, etc. So that can be a little bit off-putting for people.
It can be quite imposing.
Can be a bit daunting, etc. So I think that's to acknowledge that's really important. And what I would say is once homeowners can overcome that slight barrier and find themselves parked in a builder's merchants, what they will then find is the most fabulous, experienced staff. So our staff work with the trade customer base day in, day out, which means they understand the materials, they understand the jobs, and they're able to help guide the end user in the choices they're making. So coming to DIY, people are actually undertaking the jobs themselves. Our staff aren't tradesmen, they don't know what the detailed things but they understand the products, they understand how they're used, and they can be really helpful sources of information. Over the years, the amount of feedback I've had from tradespeople, end users alike, thanking us for the fabulous service they've had in store is really heartwarming. And I think if I think about our business, I recently handed out a 50-year service award to a member of staff at Lichfield. His wife works for us as well. She's worked for us for over 45 years. Another lady has worked for us for over 40 years. The top 5 longest serving member of staff have worked for a combined 226 years with the business. And I think if I look then at the number of people who work for the business, who've worked for the business for over 10, 15, 20 years, there's a huge number of them. So what that means is there's an incredible amount of experience available to homeowners, to end users, and to tradespeople to make the most of.
Yeah, it's quite a special privilege that is, isn't it? It's like I've got 3 generations working for me, and to support that 3-generational of a family is a privileged position to be in as an employer.
It's amazing. And if I think about why do we wake up every morning? Why are we in business? What's it all for? Then to look across the staff base we've got of 290 people, and then the length of time many of them have worked for us, the family members that work for us, not just our family, but other family members of staff, it's incredibly special. And I think that's why community is at the heart of our business. So I think about the Tipper's way of doing business, why we're in business, the community is absolutely the heart of it, because our customers ultimately live and work in our community. Our staff live and work in our community. So to be able to service that member of that part of the community and then invest back into the community is really, really important, and sort of makes it all really worthwhile.
And in terms of creating the right atmosphere for, say, the DIY customer, I know at the Wolverhampton branch, which I use quite a lot, you have got the kind of builder's entrance, and you do have a customer car park at the back, which leads into the bathroom showroom, which is a great idea because, like I said, driving into some builders merchants, you can be like, oh, where do I go? Where do I park? It's that kind of.
So where we have a choice, then we always try and have a car park that's available to park away from a yard, just to make it more accessible for everybody, including DIY and homeowners. And the majority of our branches have that, and that's something we always aspire to.
That's good. So in terms, let's go back to the history then. So over 100 years of experience. So you've mentioned your grandfather. Yeah. So that's who it started with. So from the 100 years, what do you think are the key milestones in that 100-year journey? You know, you said he supplied coal in the first
So
variation.
I think it was actually my grandfather's great uncle that originally started the business, kind of fifth generation.
Right.
So key milestones. Definitely moving from coal to building materials. That's a key one. Then when my father joined the business, we had 2 branches. So Uttoxeter and Lichfield. Right. So I think him coming into the business and then initially growing it from 2 branches to 6 branches over about sort of a 15-year period, that was a key change. Moving into Wolverhampton in the 1970s and expanding the business, Tamworth in the 1980s. Lichfield branch moved site at the end of the 80s and moved from probably a 2-acre site to a 6-acre site in Lichfield. That was a key milestone in terms of having that large infrastructure available to the business. And then I think probably the next generation coming in. So my brother and sister joined the business in 2005. I joined the business in 2007. So I think that represented the next chapter. And off the back of that, we then grew the business, found opportunities from 2012 through to 2024 to add another 8 branches to the business. So we're now 14 branches. So I think having the continuity, the investment in terms of generational investment in the business has given it a very strong future, because there's a real clear direction of what we're trying to achieve and why we're trying to achieve it.
Yeah, great. So as a family-run business then, and I was reading some article the other day, a family-run business, actually the longevity lasts longer than a non-family-run business. So comparing yourself to, say, the other builders merchants, the national brands, how do you think your business, being family-led and with your core values, how do you think that differs to some of the national builders merchants? So
I think, and this is particularly poignant at the moment, I think that the fundamental difference comes down to being family-owned, and secondly, that meaning that we think long-term. So being family-owned gives the business a family feel. We treat members of staff like family members. There's a trust there that comes with that. Thinking long-term is something that fundamentally sets us apart. If you think about PLCs, they have to declare quarterly earnings results to the City of London. And they get feedback based on those quarterly performance results. And their shareholders will then give them feedback and encourage them to behave in certain ways based on that performance. And typically, they are blown by those wins over a relatively short period of time. If I think about private equity-backed businesses, private equity wasn't really in the building materials supply sector 15 years ago. 32% of builders merchants are now owned by private equity. So private equity owners typically operate on a window of about 2 to 5 years, where the owners of those businesses want to extract their money and move on within that time frame. So the decision-making processes of private equity-backed businesses operate usually within a 2 to 5 year cycle. PLCs, again, are influenced dramatically by the quarterly earnings reports that they have to give to the City of London. We are so privileged that we don't have those forces bearing down on us. So we can think long-term. We can invest long-term. And if I think about what sustainability means, it's talked about a huge amount at the moment. But for me, sustainability is about keeping 3 things in balance. It's about keeping people's health and well-being balanced with the planet, balanced with profit or prosperity. Because if any of those 3 things become out of kilter, we don't have a sustainable planet, we don't have a sustainable society. Thinking long term, you automatically keep those things in balance. I want a business that's thriving in 50, 60, 70, 80 years' time. Therefore, doing the right thing for the planet just makes sense. Mm. The same with people. When I think about the people in our business, I don't need legislation or I don't know, anything to tell me to do it. It's just good common sense business because I think long term. So our company car fleet is 100% electric. I think we're the only builders merchants to have that. Our forklift truck fleet is electric. We have PV panels on most of our sites, and we're rolling them out where we can get grid connectivity every single year and expanding that. That's not just because it's good for the planet. It's just good business. It reduces our energy bills by having PV, and actually it feels great to everybody working in the business. So I think that the role that we play in society is very different because we think long term. My reason for waking up in the morning and going to work and growing our business and servicing the customers in the way we do isn't to try and pocket a load of money. It's about something bigger than me that matters to the people that work for the business, for the customers that we partner with, and for the communities we work in. So the ability to use one of our vehicles to put the Christmas tree up in a town at Christmas matters.
Yeah.
The ability to invest and give money to local charities that operate in our local communities, give money to local schools, support local football teams, it matters. And our branches are connected to that. So the people that work in every branch can take pride in the fact that they're working in their communities and they're working to also invest in their local communities. So it's a huge difference. And I think right now, if we think about this politically with the removal of business property relief, which essentially is a tax on family business, it's never been more poignant for family businesses to actually maybe be better at explaining why we are different. Because it's not all about money. A business has to make money. If a business doesn't make a profit, you don't have a business. So a business has to make a profit.
You made a very good explanation of the family business there and why you get up every morning is to help the community, and serving people and serving the people who work for you is, like I said, a privilege. So yeah, you made that point very eloquently, I thought. So in terms of the challenges then, so obviously we've gone through COVID, we've gone through material price hikes and this kind of thing, and people ask me, have material prices coming back down? It's like, well, if petrol prices come back down, if diesel prices come back down, I think it just becomes, you had this phrase through COVID, this new norm, didn't you?
Yeah.
So, prices go up and then that becomes a standard, and then, So what were the challenges? Well, firstly, again, don't get too political really, but what was the main reasons behind the price hikes during that time? And I know energy has gone up, so that's a big factor, but is there anything else that we might not be aware of where prices did just jump and for
So there isn't a simple answer to that.
No.
If you think about the breadth of building materials and where they come from.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about imported building materials, they're affected by exchange rate, but particularly if you take the post-COVID era you were talking about, then there were huge cost implications with getting containers and shipping across the oceans.
Yeah.
Post-COVID, a lot of the containers were on the wrong side of the world, and also the shipping market is very volatile and can be quite fickle. So container rates were varying wildly, which was causing cost inflation to imported product.
Right.
Timber was influenced hugely by a reduction in output from European, Scandinavian countries because of COVID and also weather. And when we had a post-COVID boom in North America, who build predominantly out of timber, it caused significant price rises on timber. Timber has actually gone up and then come back down again. It has settled.
I think same as steel and certain other products.
Certain products. And then the heavy side building materials, if you think UK produced materials, so insulation, brick, block, I don't see those going down. The energy costs that have gone into those businesses, if we think about the Ukraine conflict and the impact on energy prices that have followed that, unless we see a significant reduction in energy costs, which I can't foresee, then I don't see the prices of those products coming back down. And then if I think to April this year with the national insurance rises that we're all facing, I'm afraid the only way I see prices at the moment is, albeit at a slower rate than the recent years we've experienced, I see some inflationary pressure coming again in 2025. And I just hope for us all that it stabilises beyond that.
I'll tell everybody the cheapest time to build is always yesterday, isn't it?
Definitely, that is definitely true.
Yeah. So do you see any, so that's prices, so obviously, you know, that's kind of beyond our control. Is there any materials or any shortages that you see at the moment, or anything that may be coming? I've not seen any shortage of much. Not that what we do, but
I shall just fetch my crystal ball and we shall see.
I was just wondering if there's anything at the moment.
So a rated block. So a rated block currently is on allocation.
All right,
so we have the supply restrictions on a rated block. There are other materials you can use around that. So in reality, you've got alternatives.
Yeah.
So it hasn't really caused any major issues in terms of supply.
Okay.
There are areas of concern. If I think about the government's house building targets and where they'd like to be, we could debate whether they're realistic all day long. But I would definitely say that as and when we see any form of significant upswing in the construction industry, given that we've been in a relatively slow period of time now since October 23. So the construction industry saw a reduction in output in October 23. That's continued through to the present day. During that time, the brick manufacturers in particular have had to take kilns out of production because the capacity hasn't been required. Right. It takes about 6 months to get a brick kiln back into production. It's also a huge investment by the brick companies to get a kiln back in production. So they're not going to want to start that process until they're absolutely sure that the capacity in the market is required. So I can guarantee you that when we do see an upswing in construction output, whenever that might be, let's all hope it's sooner rather than later, there will be brick shortages.
Okay. So we need to get building the houses, don't we?
We do.
But then we need to get the kilns back up at the same time.
And I think this is about confidence. So we need the brick manufacturers to have the confidence to get the kilns up and running as soon as possible to make sure that we don't suffer too many shortages in bricks. Other products, subject to any other global events, I think should actually be able to keep pace.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So you've mentioned sustainability a few times. So what kind of trends have you seen then in terms of building material supply and sustainability, new products? We could talk about, AI, everyone thinks AI is going to come steal their jobs. I mean, there's some good things coming through AI. I mean, I've embedded it in some of my processes, which has sped a few things up. But in terms of materials, so is there anything else, any new products coming out that you can see? We mentioned brick, and I build houses and extensions for a living predominantly, and I don't think there's anything better than the material you see behind us. I mean, how long has this been standing? But I know there's the new insulate, and we've done some, to be honest, the SIPS insulated panel systems and that kind of thing. But is there anything else that you see material-wise coming through, or a latest product that you're starting to sell?
So I think there's two, from a carbon perspective, there's two different sort of ways of looking at construction, I think, and two relevant factors to consider. One is embodied carbon, and two is operational carbon. So embodied carbon refers to the carbon that's being used to produce the building material that's going into your house. Yep. And then operational carbon is essentially the carbon that's going to be used by your house during its lifetime. I think if we think about embodied carbon, there is some really interesting stuff happening. And I think that suppliers are starting to work really hard now to go on a journey to reduce the carbon in their products. Mm. So if we think about the Midlands here, Ibstock Brick have just completely rebuilt their Atlas plant, which has reduced the embodied carbon of the bricks being produced by that factory by 50%. Okay. Which is phenomenal. Yeah. So I think as an industry, we should be, promoting that, celebrating that. So that's really exciting. That's an amazing achievement. and other brick manufacturers are doing similar work to try and reduce the carbon going into their products. Heidelberg which is Hanson Cement, have committed to building a new cement plant in the UK with full carbon capture. And I believe that's due to come on stream in 2028, 2029. So that'll be the UK's first carbon neutral cement manufactured on shores.
Well, that's a large thing, because cement gets a really bad rep, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, so
sustainability.
if cement was a country in terms of its carbon output, it would be the second largest emitter of carbon in the world after China.
Okay.
It's huge.
Yeah.
And it's also an incredibly strong, versatile building material. And back to your point about longevity, it lasts. You build out of something that's concrete, you build out a brick, they are slightly higher embodied carbon, but they last. From an operational carbon perspective, I think the big things are around how are we heating our houses, how are we insulating our houses, and air tightness. So and building regs is driving change in those areas, and I think that people are adapting to that, they're getting used to that. Air source heat pumps for heating our houses are the way forward, coupled with really well insulated houses, coupled with underfloor heating or low surface temperature solutions to actually get the heat into the house, because it's a renewable heat source. They tend to run at lower temperatures, so you have to have a larger surface output for that heat to come into the house. And then ventilation. So as we get houses more airtight, which is great, they're more efficient, the next phase will then be ventilation. So mechanical ventilation, heat recovery is a really exciting area, not only because I think it's going to make houses more efficient, I think it's a huge health benefit. Bringing fresh air constantly into the properties, making sure that properties are well ventilated, improves the health of the occupants and the living conditions for people in houses.
Yeah, definitely. So going back to customer service and our own experience of your company, why is good customer service crucial in the construction industry, do you think?
It's why we're in business. It's what we do. If we don't offer you good service, we haven't got a business. You know, your business is wholly reliant on our business. Our business is wholly reliant on your business. You need us to get the right stuff to you.
My business is wholly reliant on the customer service that I provide to the end user.
Yeah, so, I think it is as simple as that. It's just so important. I think underpinning that sort of, if you like, that commercial requirement to deliver those core fundamentals, I think is the fact that we're all doing this a long time. Building material supply, construction is hard work.
Yeah.
It's hard work, it's graft. That's a very uncool thing to say, I think, nowadays. It is, it's hard work. We start early, we work hard, all conditions to make sure the jobs carry on, that we all can earn a living, that food gets put on the table. And I think amongst that, and combined with the fact we have a lot of sole traders as customers. So if you put those two things together, having fun is a core part of our business. It's a core value within our business. I think it's a core part of the day. We often talk about work hard, play hard. And I think that's an important part of that service. That relationship that gets built goes beyond just getting the right materials to the right place at the right time. It actually does become personal. We get to know each other because we're talking to each other every day. And actually the social and relationship side of the business, I think actually are at the heart of it as well. They're really, really important. So that service is not just service, I think it's service and relationship.
Yeah, well, I think I certainly speak to one of your members of staff, at least one of them, at least every other day. So, you know, that you do almost become like family as part of the wider group. So, and you know, I know a lot of people now within your business. I know their families, I know the family members, you know, because you do meet up and you do get that relationship, which is great. And from a support point of view, I know when I walk into your branch, talking about the imposing nature of it, if I think back when I first started, you know, one of our gas engineers sent me to the branch, and it's like, can you pick this up for me while I was there? I did not have a clue about what I was picking up. Is that, you know, 'cause there's terminology within every kind of micro industry.
We try to make it difficult, don't we, by having 3 names for everything.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. And it was a part, and it's like, that's not the name for it. I was like, okay, well, but the staff there have always been great at that. So it's like, I don't know what I'm talking about here. I need these kind of, and it's, you know, no problem. Walk around, grab it for you. Here you go. This is what he's talking about, and like, and you're learning all the time, because obviously there's more and more products, and you learn. So, yeah, the staff and the community within that group, whenever you meet, the camaraderie and the fun.
We talk about people first. People first is, you know, the heart of our business. It's the heart of the industry, I think, as well.
Yeah.
That it, you know, people buy from people. And that sense that actually it's down to our brilliant team of staff that make your life easier and have a bit of fun at the same time.
Yeah, definitely. And the sourcing of stuff, I didn't realise, I asked one of your members' staff, I was like, oh, I've got to go and buy this now. I was like, well, we can get that for you. Now, it's something you don't stock.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, we can try. I was like, okay, well, let me know. I need it next week. And it rang me back, oh, I can get that 10% cheaper than you could get it offline. We can source that for you and deliver that as part of the other delivery I already had booked in. I was like, well, that's amazing, that is. That, you know,
put it on your account, make life easy.
That's exactly
it. And sourcing is, so we constantly, if I think about how my time's split, a typical day will involve some element of sourcing, talking to suppliers, looking at new products, what range we're stocking, as well as talking to customers and interfacing with the selling side of the business. It's an incredibly important part. We have to do our job right in terms of getting the right things on the shelf and be able to source the right products in order to make sure we're delivering that service proposition to you.
Yeah, well, no, because it wasn't a surprise in that, you know, your staff did that for me, because I know, you know, I go above and beyond, but I just didn't know I could say, you know, can you get this, which is something I know you don't stop.
I think it is really nice that then I often say to people, I'm always curious about what our customers are doing. I love finding out more.
Yeah.
And I think I'd never put myself down as being a salesperson.
Same here.
I just love taking an interest in what people do.
Yeah.
And I think when I take an interest and then ask questions, you usually find an opportunity comes out the back end of it with a way to help make that customer's life easier.
Yeah. So you say part of your job is sourcing. Is there any kind of mistakes that you think tradespeople or homeowners can make when sourcing materials?
So I would say this as a merchant, but so please take this as it's meant. Over the years, you said it was changes in the industry. There's been an incredible shift to more lower cost imported products. Yeah. And it's a really interesting time now where you can look at, take brassware, take taps, take a bathroom tap.
Yeah.
I could show you a picture of 3 taps, and the picture looks like they're all the same, and the price can vary dramatically. And when you actually unpick the product and you pick it up and you look at the weight of it, you look at the quality of the chrome, you look at the cartridge inside of it, you look at the warranty you've been offered, the quality of products available varies dramatically. You can always find something cheaper. And it surprises me often that as a merchant, we're being asked, well, can we get that cheaper? Can you find me something cheaper? And so, well, often the answer is, well, yes, I can. Do I want to sell it to you? Possibly not. You know, we pride ourselves at selling fit and forget products. I don't necessarily, and that means that we're not always the cheapest. So I think there's an element where it's easy to sometimes find a cheaper alternative that's going to cost money in the medium term. If I take that example of a tap, if I was an end user fitting that to my property, the cost of a trained plumber to change a tap quite often now will be more than the value of the tap.
Yeah.
And yet people will often penny pinch over the cost of the product. And I find that very surprising. And it also challenges me, and I'll reflect this back in a mirror and go, are we as a merchant doing a good enough job at explaining to our customers what the advantages and the benefits are of a better quality product in a way that they can take to their customer and present that information clearly, so that actually the final end user can make that clear choice to go, oh, well, no, if I was given the option of spending £10 more, I would have gone for the dearer one, because actually it's going to last longer and it's got a 15-year warranty rather than a 2-year warranty.
Yeah. I think in answer to that question you had within that was, can you do a better job? I think maybe, and so can we, because I had it recently where we're fitting a bathroom and they'd gone to an online supplier for it, and just never again is the answer, because it was, so cheaply made, and you could tell it's not going to last. And so if anyone asks me to do that again, and then also you got the problems with returns because there was damage in, and that you got the return, then you got to wait for the returns and all this kind of stuff like that. It probably put about 3 weeks on a bathroom install just because we wasn't happy with the quality that came through. Now, like I said, online, if you look at that tap and another tap, you can't see any difference, because they wanted a certain look. They wanted an anthracite tap. So one anthracite tap to another, so
they look, and is one painted?
Yeah.
Is one painted and is one plated? What's the difference in the way that they've been finished? There's so much variety in that, and particularly with the move to coloured finishes on brassware and paint and sort of like black anthracite, it's a minefield.
Yeah, but again, it is that with some people it's price point, but I think because they'd already purchased those items, if I would have, and again I was thinking maybe it's around educational piece, because if I would have said to them, because they wasn't going for budget, they just went for a certain look.
Yes, they just wanted the aesthetic.
Yeah. So if I would have got there first, say, because I'd already placed that order, and said, look, we need to buy a better product. Yeah. Or this is a better product because, I need to sell them that because, isn't it? Or why it's a better product.
Why is there that difference? And I think it is about explaining why. And coming back to sustainability, a product that lasts 15 years is far more sustainable than one that lasts for 5 years, 45 years. So I think that is, as a material supply sector, it's important that we drive quality sometimes over being the cheapest.
Yeah, well, it's exactly the same for us. Yeah, that quality finish and service over, because for us, you usually can be cheaper. It's just where do you want to drive the quality and the consistency of service.
Like cheapness has a cost, and sometimes that cost is hidden in the short term, and it comes out a little bit down the line.
Yeah, 100%. So I think that concludes it. Is there anything else you want to tell us about tippers? So we've covered the tippers way, and obviously, the nature of you conduct yourself in terms of business and being open, with tradespeople.
Hey, look, I think we appreciate the invitation to be on the podcast. It's really good to talk to you. And I think it's great to be able to get the message out there about the material supply sector, the opportunities that are out there for youngsters coming into our industry. There's a big drive from a careers point of view across the whole of the building materials supply sector at the moment to encourage more people to engage with it. It's huge fun, really interesting. It gives people the opportunity to influence the environment they all live in. And I think as a business, come and visit us, come and see what we're all about. We'd love to see you.
That's great. In terms of careers, if I just quickly, because I know we discussed that before. So obviously most websites have a career section, and we're all encouraging younger people into the industry. What I say to people is I'm always open to employment, so I'll employ the right person at any given time.
Totally agree with that. So we employ attitude, and we want good, curious, interesting people to join our business all the time. There's opportunities for people of most ages who want to learn and bring something to the business. Apprenticeships available through us, and we really, if I go back over the years, bringing particularly youngsters into the industry and developing them has been a cornerstone of our business for as long as I can remember.
That's interesting that you offer apprenticeships, because I've got an education background, and I wouldn't know that a builder's merchant would offer apprenticeships.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's great. So it's great for people who listen and may think that's a way, another way into the industry. Yeah,
another way into the industry. There's a good career path to develop themselves.
Yeah. Okay, great. All right. Thanks again, Joe. So
thank you very much.
If anyone wants to connect with myself, Joe, we're on our website, just tippers.co.uk.com.
Yeah.
And thank you very much. And we'll speak to you on the next one. Thank you very much.